Hey out there, and welcome to today's Search Engine Journal webinar. Hope you're having a great day, and we're thrilled to have you here with us. I am joined by Aaron and Eric Wilder of 81 and Sunny Digital Media Agency, and our sponsor today is CallRail. And we'll be joined by Amelia from CallRail in just a little bit. But first, today we're going to be talking about 6 ways your organization can win with your marketing agency. So who here is already working with an agency or just needs more bandwidth to get campaigns done? My guess is that's why most of you are here. And feel free to use the chat to let me know. So during this time, you'll learn how to trust your agency and work on creating campaigns that help you reach your KPIs. And as marketers, that's what it's all about, right? So let's get to it. My name's Heather. I'm going to be your moderator today. Please use hashtag SEJWebinars to share any cool tidbits from today's learning on social. And let's meet our guests. Whew. Aaron and Eric, excited to have you here with us. Please share a little bit about yourselves before we get started.
Hi, everyone. Erin Wilder here, co-founder of 81 and Sunny. Just a little background on me. I grew up in Chicago, working at big agencies, repping big brands and, getting my teeth cut there and learning everything from search, social, display, everything digital, and really had a focus on performance media before moving down to Florida and starting 81 and Sunny.
Hello, Eric Wilder here, also co-founder of 81 and Sunny. Also kind of cut my teeth in the Chicago digital marketing market as well. I was more on the business development and ad tech side, selling into these larger agencies. If you can't tell, Aaron and I are a husband and wife combo who started 81 and Sunny after moving to Sarasota, Florida. But yeah, we have a lot of experience within like the enterprise level type of advertisers, dealing with all channels, all types of KPIs, which really kind of formulated how we run our own business now and how we wanted to kind of do things a little bit different.
Awesome. Well, it's very nice to have you both here with us. And so for our attendees out there, if you experience any technical difficulties, please use the chat box to let us know. And there is a tab for questions and chat. So if you have any questions, just throw them in that Q&A tab. And then you can upvote any questions that you see. So if you see something that somebody else asked that you like, give that a little thumbs up, and that'll let us know that it's important to you. And we'll answer as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. There is also closed captioning. It's the little CC in the top right corner. So click that. And then we'll do our best to link to any resources or tools in the chat. But if we miss one, just use that chat box to ask. And so resources will also be included in your recap email. After the webinar, we ask if you can stick around for a short survey. It takes 2 minutes or less, and this information just helps us gauge what works and how we can make SEJ webinars more useful for you. And lastly, you will receive this full recording of today's hashtag SEJ webinars later today. So watch your inbox for that. See what I did there? All right, without any further delay, let's get to it. Aaron, Eric, it's all yours. I'll be back at the Q&A.
Thank you. So yeah, first we want to say thank you to Search Engine Journal and CallRail for inviting us to your living rooms, your office, wherever you may be joining, if it's now or later. And thank you for everyone who is attending. We look forward to sharing, our success stories with you, and hopefully you're able to take away some learnings as well, especially if you're on the, the agency side. We already touched base a little bit about our personal backgrounds and career before founding 81 and Sunny. But the reason why we did is because, working at the enterprise level in a big market like Chicago, we started to get a little burnt out on, how the industry was kind of functioning from agency and advertiser dynamic. Is it more of that antiquated agency advertiser model? Or, is it more about personal relationships or the entertainment? At the end of the day, it wasn't about the value that the agency was bringing to the table or the value that an ad tech partner was bringing to the table. It was kind of like ancillary variables that were allowing certain ad tech partners, for example, to be on media buys and not the actual value that they could bring to the advertiser. So when we started 81andSunny, we really wanted to kind of change that dynamic and put the advertiser first to provide as much value as possible. So you'll see as we go through the 6 key principles that we kind of follow, you'll see that it's not rocket science, but we're definitely trying to change it up a little bit to where we're putting the value of the advertiser first and then kind of riding their coattails, because the more successful we're able to make them, the more successful we're able to be. So hopefully you'll be able to follow along and take something away after this webinar. So here you see the 6 key principles, if you will. And again, not rocket science, right? But again, if we are able to follow these, this is how we know we're able to provide real value to our clients. As we go through each slide that represents each one you see here, they do blend together. When it comes to tracking or the math or the ROI, they all kind of bleed together. But again, that's kind of the whole point, is like we try to follow these 10 poles or keys as much as possible to provide as much value as possible. And you'll see as we go through each one of these slides, we'll be able to provide examples. But again, it's kind of following these keys that we've found that, allow us to be successful, and then our advertiser or the client to be successful.
Yeah. And a lot of the time in any business, you can get bogged down with your day-to-day decisions or having to make a tough decision. Maybe what's best for my business might not be best for the advertiser's business. But if we really have to make that tough decision, we come back to these principles, and it, nets out to the end. If the advertiser wins, then we win. It's all about building that partnership. I think the word partnership is really important to use versus, an agency that works for an advertiser. And building that partnership is really important instead of kind of like a working for someone.
So yeah, we will just dive right in here. And as Heather mentioned in the intro, if there's any questions, feel free to throw them in that Q&A. We'll try to catch them, but I know she was keeping her eye out too. If it's an acronym or, something we said just doesn't resonate, feel free. We want to keep this kind of engaging as much as possible. We don't just want to fly through all these slides. Please feel free to dump some questions in that Q&A, and we'll try to hit them as we go, or wait for the end. No big deal, but definitely feel free to chime in. So we're getting right into it, transparency. And we really feel that this should be the number one key principle, because it ties into everything else. ROI, tracking, reporting. It's what we feel is the first thing that needs to be followed, because without this, there's no trust. And we feel like this is the baseline to get the trust going between an agency and their client or the advertiser. This is especially true that we found if an advertiser has been left feeling burnt by an agency in the past because they really didn't understand if the agency or the programs that they were managing for them were successful. There was just, they felt left in the dark. They didn't really understand all the data points because the agency would own the ad accounts, for example. So they really would have no idea kind of what was working, what was not, how much it was moving their bottom line. There was no closed loop attribution. So they felt kind of burnt. So, we feel like sometimes we get into conversations where advertisers are like, I worked with an agency in the past, and I don't think I can sign up for that again because I just felt like I didn't know what was going on. But, with transparency, that you're able to get that baseline of trust going right away. And, even if goals aren't being hit right from the get-go, you're at least able to prove, how every dollar is being invested and what you're doing to right the ship to try and hit their goals. At the end of the day, they should own the ad accounts because it's their money that's being invested into these programs. So they should be able to walk away with the data, and everything that, is associated with these investments should be the clients at the end of the day. But long story short here is like, make sure every dollar is tracked, every dollar can be accounted for, and then, reported back to the client about exactly what is going on with their dollars and how you're helping to grow their business.
Yeah. And I think there's two important things to note here, in addition to what's on the slide. This is a really technical world that we're in. And us as the agency owners, we get hired as experts, right? You hire a lawyer or a plumber or an electrician because you don't know how to do those things. And the advertiser feels burnt if they don't understand, what the lawyer is billing them for, and they're not sure what the outcome was. It gets really convoluted. So with that, historically, the second thing is that it used to be, or still sometimes is, common practice that the tech partner or the agency will own that ad account. This is the third point that Eric was making, which means that they own the data and they own the media, and they're not transparent about what the fees are. So they could be spending a certain amount of money on the media and then saying, oh, our services are wrapped into that number and they're billing you separate. But because you can't see, because the advertiser isn't able to see how much was spent on media and how much was spent on fees, then that's that transparency that's missing, and where we've seen in the past, advertisers get taken advantage of. So that's really just our best practice is for the advertiser to own the ad account. It's their data, it's their money. They can poke around anytime they want, and that kind of keeps both of us accountable too.
Yeah, we've all heard those horror stories where, agency partners will skim off the top and then report on that they invested a certain amount into a digital program, and then reporting on it like they actually did invest what they said, and then charging a fee on top of it. It's horrible when you hear those stories, but it does happen. And that's why a lot of advertisers are left, especially when it comes to, smaller and medium-sized businesses. That's where they felt burnt on agencies in the past. But at the end of the day, we want our clients to feel comfortable. So if they own everything, they know exactly what's going on at all times. I think we have a question here. I think we can pause. Have you worked with a client that has an in-house intake team that utilizes a lead grading system? Any tips on gently suggesting how to improve the grading system for leads? Great question. Yes, for our larger enterprise clients, that are a little bit more sophisticated. This will kind of get into the tracking a little bit later, but it is part of transparency too. But more enterprise, more technically savvy advertisers that have the ability to tie in their CRM data to like Google Ads, for example, and understanding which opportunities are specifically attributed back to paid media. But yes, they do follow, MQL to SQL, all of that to understand, and then also scoring them based on the quality of leads. I think for this question, and which we'll get into more later, is, making sure all tracking that is available to you from a technical standpoint is put into play. Try to close that loop of attribution as much as possible. Like I said, from a tech standpoint, sometimes that's not possible. But then it's understanding their sales numbers too. How often are are leads turning into a market qualified lead, and then from a market qualified lead to a sales qualified lead, and then SQL to a closed opportunity, or an opportunity to a closed opportunity. So tracking will be your best bet, making sure that's all buttoned up. If that's not possible from a technical standpoint, really understanding their benchmarks and putting those into play. And again, this will come into, we'll be touching on this more later on, but tracking is always going to be your best bet. But I think we'll be able to dive into this question a little bit more in a couple more slides.
And this is also kind of like the proof is in the pudding. That's our whole concept of these key principles, right? Is there's number and there's data and it's there in front of you. So let's just look at that data instead of, I saw Dean use the word gently suggest. Well, let's look at the data, then it's not you saying that their baby's ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. And the data tells a story, and we all know about, the qualms between the marketing team and the sales team, right? Sales is saying marketing is not driving enough or enough qualified leads, where then the marketing team is sent, look at the data, we're driving very qualified leads, so on and so forth. But in the, the best cases we see is when, there's kind of that disconnect between